This is a cliff that can give birth to life. A humanoid ruby is slowly being born, because of the harsh environment. The chances of them successfully growing into human form are extremely low. Up until now, only 28 lustrous remain on this continent. Each lustrous possesses a stunning, almost devilish figure, tall, graceful, and elegant, and their one and only duty is to destroy the Lunarians, a mysterious race obsessed with collecting gemstones. 2 lustrous have just been defeated by the Lunarians and turned into their prized collection. At that moment, a man named Congo suddenly appeared, with just a snap of his fingers. He annihilated all the Lunarians. He is the strongest among the lustrous, and everyone respectfully calls him sensei. But when he roared in anger without realizing it, the nearby Phos couldn't withstand the pressure and shattered instantly. It turns out Phos's hardness is only 3.5, the lowest among all lustrous, because she's too fragile. Congo assigned her the task of compiling a natural history encyclopedia. When a lustrous is injured, Rutiel is the one responsible for repairing them. She simply reattaches the shattered pieces of their body, and the tiny organisms inside will help fuse the cracks over time. For aesthetic purposes, Rutiel applies a layer of foundation on their bodies to conceal any scars, but Phos, freshly repaired, couldn't sit still for even a moment. She didn't want to be a support member. She wanted to fight alongside her comrades. Goshenite gently handed her a sword, but the weight of the sword was too much for Phos to bear. Phos soon realized she couldn't escape her fate as a support worker. In Goshenite's mind, Cinnabar is the only lustrous who knows about marine life. Most lustrous are active during the day. At night, without sunlight to sustain them, they become sluggish and unfit for combat. But Cinnabar's light-absorbing ability makes her the only candidate for night patrols. However, her entire body is poisonous. Any lustrous who makes physical contact with her will have the touched part corroded. The only solution is to cut it off completely. Because of this, Cinnabar has never had a single friend. Phos decided to go to the seaside to find her personally. But just then, the Lunarians suddenly appeared again. Fortunately, Cinnabar came to the rescue. The Lunarians launched countless arrows, but Cinnabar's poisonous liquid blocked them all, while she successfully wiped out the Lunarians. Cinnabar accidentally fell off the cliff. Luckily, Phos managed to grab her in time. However, Phos's body was corroded by Cinnabar's poison. Rutiel once made the same mistake while studying Cinnabar. Her entire right arm was melted away by the toxin, and she had no choice but to amputate it. Whenever a lustrous loses a part of their body, the memories stored in that part disappear as well. Now Phos, having been exposed to a large amount of Cinnabar's poison, no one knows what memories she has lost, but she still remembers that the person in front of her is Rutiel. Cinnabar looked at the friend she had hurt, and couldn't help but think, if only she could be taken away by the Lunarians to the moon. Maybe up there, she could find her own purpose. Cinnabar was also envious of Phos, because everyone liked her. After saying this, she turned to continue her seaside patrol. Her lonely silhouette made Phos feel a deep sense of sadness. Phos decided to help Cinnabar find a new purpose in life, but she soon realized she couldn't even complete her own task of writing the encyclopedia, so she went to Diamond for help, hoping to study Diamond's body structure. While the two of them were talking in the meadow, the Lunarians quietly approached. Diamond faced the enemy alone, blocking their attacks with her blade, and even tried to reflect their weapons back at them, but her strength wasn't enough, and she was soon knocked down. She threw Phos to safety, but became the target of thousands of arrows herself. At that moment, Diamond's partner appeared just in time, blocking every incoming strike. She counterattacked swiftly, and the Lunarian leader was destroyed on the spot. It turns out that while Diamond's hardness is level 10, her toughness is only level 2, making her the most fragile in the Diamond family. The battle just now even caused one of her arms to break. Bort, with a stern expression, wanted to lecture Diamond, but Phos quickly stepped in to stop her. Trying to mediate, Phos ended up being tossed into the air by Bort's sword. Bort was about to continue scolding Phos when a new wave of Lunarians suddenly appeared. They bypassed Bort and flew straight toward the Lustrous headquarters. At that moment, the strongest of them all, Congo, was still taking his afternoon nap. The Lunarians secretly descended upon the base. Planning a surprise attack, they dropped a massive snail shell from above. Bort leapt into the air, charging toward them. Diamond wanted to join the fight, but before she could, Bort had already destroyed the Lunarians with a single slash. After the great battle, everyone handed the snail shell to Phos. They asked her to record this new species in the encyclopedia, but to everyone's shock, the snail was still alive, and it swallowed Phos whole. Things only got worse. The fluid inside the snail began to dissolve Phos's body. By the time everyone realized what was happening, it was already too late. Inside the snail, Phos's body had been corroded until only her 2 eyes remained. Even then, she still thought about the lonely cinnabar. Just then, a faint green mark appeared on the snail shell. Diamond was certain Phos was still alive, so she charged forward and kicked the snail's back with all her strength. The snail screamed in pain and rolled straight into the water. After the battle, the once massive snail had turned into a tiny slug. Everyone dove underwater to search for Phos's fragments, but they found nothing. Diamond then noticed something strange. Whenever she called Phos's name, the little slug reacted. She began to suspect that Phos had merged with the slug. At first, Diamond wanted to hand the slug over to Rutiel for care, but she worried Rutiel might dissect it. Once a soft-bodied creature is dissected, it's nearly impossible to restore it, so Diamond carried the slug around, asking every Lustrous for help, but no one knew what to do. Some even said it might be better this way, that Phos, in this form, could finally avoid being hunted by the Lunarians, because Phos was always weak and always causing trouble. Not a single Lustrous was willing to help her. While resting by the seaside, Diamond began to understand how Phos must have felt. After all, she herself was a burden to Bort, always relying on Bort's protection, so she decided that no matter what, she would help Phos. Late that night, exhausted from running around without sunlight to sustain her, Diamond collapsed onto the grass. Cinnabar mistook her for a Lunarian attack, simply because Diamond's body shone too brightly in the dark. Diamond quickly explained that Phos had turned into a slug. Though Cinnabar spoke coldly, saying she didn't want to help, she still took the time to tell Diamond about the habits of snails and slugs. Apparently, creatures like snails enjoy eating stones to repair their shells, and in doing so, strengthen their outer defenses. Diamond suddenly realized something. Phos must have attached herself to the snail's shell. She rushed back to the base and gathered everyone to retrieve the shell from the water. Together, they began collecting Phos's scattered fragments from it. After an entire night of work, Phos's body slowly began to reform. At last, Phos was restored to her original self, but the moment she woke up, she started chasing after the slug. The slug ended up flying straight onto Congo's head. Congo immediately recognized its true nature. It wasn't an ordinary creature at all. It was a close relative of the Lustrous, a royal deep-sea slug known as Ventricosus. Congo asked what its plans were next. Although he couldn't understand its language, he could sense its peaceful intentions, and at that moment, Phos was the only one who could actually understand what Ventricosus was saying, so Congo decided to entrust this important task to her. Still, knowing Phos's personality, it would already be a miracle if she didn't break the poor thing. Eventually, Ventricosus gave in to her antics. Then it told Phos a shocking secret. Deep beneath the nearby ocean, there existed many creatures that looked just like the Lustrous. This revelation ignited a fire of curiosity in Phos's heart. If she could explore the ocean and discover a new world, she might finally become a hero among the Lustrous. But Congo forbade her from going without proper biological knowledge. Diving into the ocean would only mean certain death. Her plan to explore the sea was completely denied. Meanwhile, Ventricosus fell ill, suffering from malnutrition after eating food from the land. Wanting to help it find proper food, Phos decided to sneak out to sea anyway. They quietly dove beneath the waves, following the current toward Ventricosus's homeland. Fragile as she was, Phos had to constantly watch her surroundings. If her body shattered against the currents, she would be lost in the ocean forever. Then, right before her eyes, Ventricosus transformed into a beautiful young woman. It turned out that whenever she returned near her homeland, she would regain her true form. In truth, the Ventricosus species was not so different from the Lustrous. They shared the same ancestor, a being once known as human. After 6 catastrophic meteor impacts, humans took refuge beneath the sea. Over time, they split into 3 forms: soul, bone, and flesh. The bones, having bonded with other organisms, returned to the land and gained immortality, becoming what are now known as the Lustrous. The Ventricosus tribe represented the flesh. They inherited humanity's cycle of birth and death, yet continued to preserve knowledge and culture, and the souls of humanity became the Lunarians. This revelation completely shattered Phos's understanding of the world. She wanted to learn more about the history of these races, but before she could, Arrows from the Lunarians rained down on her from above. Her body was pierced through completely. Phos's fragments scattered across the sea, and in the final moment before losing consciousness, she realized the one who had betrayed her was none other than Ventricosus. Ventricosus had already made a secret deal with the Lunarians, and their ultimate target was Phos. In exchange, the Lunarians promised to release Ventricosus's captured kin. It turned out that the once thriving deep-sea tribe had all become prisoners of the Lunarians, desperate to save her people. Ventricosus humbly begged the Lunarians for mercy, but instead of granting her wish, they unleashed their blazing fire upon her. The Lunarians didn't just want Phos, they wanted to capture Ventricosus as well. That was the true nature of the human soul, endless greed and insatiable desire. And within the Lunarians, that greed burned brighter than ever. Ventricosus's agonized screams awakened a massive beast behind the Lunarians. She called out its name, Aculeatus. The beast froze. It was her brother. In that moment, the Lunarians fired a barrage of flaming arrows at Aculeatus. Enraged, the beast went berserk. The Lunarian leader was instantly crushed beneath the force of Aculeatus's tail. The clouds above could no longer bear its weight. They split apart, twisting violently, and came crashing down into the sea, sending waves towering into the air. When the battle was finally over, Aculeatus appeared before his sister once more. He looked at the sister who had once been timid and fragile, and saw how much she had changed. He felt proud of her, but he knew their escape would soon be discovered. They had to clean up the battlefield and erase all traces of the fight. The problem was Phos. Her presence was evidence they couldn't hide, so Aculeatus decided to smash her into pieces and toss her into the sea. But Ventricosus stopped him. Perhaps it was time for them to change. 2. They had already failed once in their struggle against the Lunarians. Maybe their second chance lay with the Lustrous. With that, she carried Phos back into the depths of the sea. Meanwhile, back at the Lustrous headquarters, everyone was panicking over Phos's disappearance. When they saw her footprints along the shore, they finally realized Phos had gone to the ocean alone. Congo immediately sent everyone out to search the waters for her. From a distance, Cinnabar watched. She didn't dare go near, fearing that her poison would contaminate the others. She told herself she didn't care about Phos, but deep down, she was worried. Suddenly, Phos's voice came from behind her. She had been sent back by Ventricosus, but her body was in pieces, legless and broken. Phos was waiting for Rutiel's treatment. The problem was, Phos's hardness was only 3.5, and the storage room no longer had any materials with a similar composition. The only option left was to graft the coral-like spikes from Ventricosus's shell onto her body. Those spikes contained agate, with a hardness of 7. For someone as fragile as Phos, the difference was enormous. If her body rejected the agate, she might never be able to walk again. Rutiel had no choice but to process and reshape the material, trying to soften its hardness as much as possible. When Phos first put on her new legs, she could barely move, like a baby learning to walk. Her lower half felt numb, her feet as stiff as wooden poles. The other Lustrous comforted her, and Phos tried to thank them, but she suddenly forgot Jade's name. It turned out that when she lost her legs, she also lost a large portion of her memories stored within them. Now all she could do was rest in the sunlight and recover, but the thought of Cinnabar waiting alone for her help made Phos get back up from the grass once again. 2 Lustrous nearby were playing rock paper scissors when a flash of light streaked past them. It was Phos, moving with near-flying speed. Her new legs weren't just beautiful, they were powerful. Just then, the base alarm blared. The Lunarians were attacking again. Among the Lustrous, Yellow Diamond was the fastest, swiftly evading the Lunarians' assault. Congo was already on the field. As Yellow Diamond turned toward him, an arrow suddenly shot toward her back. At the last second, Zircon threw herself in front of the attack. When Rutiel regained consciousness, another complicated repair surgery awaited her. But then she noticed something alarming. Phos, who had just gotten new legs, was gone. Yellow Diamond rushed out to search. When she finally spotted Phos, Phos ran right past her, moving at an astonishing speed. It turned out Phos still couldn't control her body. She was eventually caught and brought back to headquarters. Now, with her newfound speed, Phos was assigned a new role, battle reconnaissance. Congo handed her the lightest sword they had, but her unmodified hands were too weak to bear its weight. Still, with Phos's reckless personality, there was no way she'd ever accept being left out of a fight.